WUSA 9 Weather Impact is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan.
Good Friday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe Spears. Still keeping an eye on some pretty hot weather working in towards the end of today. It's comfortable here for now. Something different that's added in here for Friday's forecast. We are looking at some impacts to air quality if you are heading out and about, and especially if you are particularly more sensitive to those conditions. Something to keep in mind here for Friday. Thankfully, we are looking at better news in that department for the weekend, but it is going to stay hot as we head into Saturday and Sunday. As far as how the air quality alert is looking, it's for the majority of the D.C. and Baltimore metro area. Conditions high enough that we have been placed under a code orange alert here across the area. So again, especially if you are more sensitive to those conditions, today is the day to be a little bit more mindful if you're heading outside. So again, if you have asthma or especially if you have respiratory issues, I would certainly be a little bit more mindful of spending a long amount of time outside today. Thankfully, over the weekend, we do start to see these numbers gradually drop down through moderate conditions, which again, still not great, but it's not the worst thing either. So again, just keeping it in mind, if you start to notice your throat gets scratchy over the next couple of days, you might not be sick. You might just be dealing with some of that isolated air quality out there. As far as how things are looking just in general for today, starting off pretty mild, but we are working back up through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and into the 90s by the end of today. A little bit of cloud cover here and there. So again, trying to get some shade, some relief from some of that sunshine, but it is going to be pretty bright once again throughout today. Winds for the most part a little bit lighter, so we're still just looking at a casual breeze here throughout most of Friday, and then by the late afternoon, early evening, most of us are trying to touch up to that high temperature, upper 80s, low 90s. A lot of us will try to get into the 90s today. DC ended up just shy at about 89 degrees for Thursday. Rain chances over the next little bit. The timing is shifting. Now, Saturday looks like a higher chance, but the timing of this is important. Sunday is now going to look a little bit lighter. And again, we're not really tracking a whole lot as we head into most of next week as well. Timing wise for Saturday, it's pretty late in the day, so you can still head out and about for the entirety of the day without much worry about the wet weather. But once the sun sets, again, for late night plans, you might start to have to keep a little bit of wet weather in mind. Temperatures will be at the peak of this heat on Saturday. Now, because we're not really looking at much wet weather left over for Sunday, those numbers can start to get a little bit higher. So we're trying to get a third day in a row of 90-degree weather as we get into the end of the weekend. After that, though, it is still the same rough story. Numbers for the most part trying to drop down a little bit more, so we should try to touch back in the low 80s around average for this time of year heading into Monday. But then again, already starting to warm up once again as we head into Tuesday, numbers back up into the mid 80s. Humidity for the most part is still trying to stay low, especially when we're at the peak of our heat, but some of that moisture left over from Saturday night is still hanging tight heading into the beginning of Sunday. So you might start to feel a little bit of that humidity out there to end off the weekend, dropping off pretty fast as we head into the earlier parts of next week. But then again, as those dew points start to get closer to 60 and above, that's where you're getting into that territory. We're going to start to feel it on your skin as you're heading outside. Temperature-wise, over the next couple of days, again, we're looking at another 3-day stretch of trying to at least getting to 90 degrees and above, but we're staying far enough away from the records that this is just going to be a hot stretch. It's not going to be a record-breaking stretch here, thankfully. Rain, for the most part, is trying to shift more so into Saturday night, early on Sunday if you've got some extremely early morning plans, but for the most part, the end of the weekend is looking a little bit drier. Then heading into Monday, that's about the only normal day that we get. Average weather for this time of year, again, should put us in the low 80s here in the area. So that's exactly where we'll try to be. Still looking at a mixture of sunshine and clouds here for a lot of these days. Now getting into the middle to later parts of next week, trying to do it all over again. We're going to watch numbers work back up into the mid to upper 80s for Tuesday and Wednesday, starting to eye some isolated rain chances that we kind of more desperately need now at this point, working in towards the end of next week. So a couple more showers and storms trying to pop up heading into next Thursday. But once again, it could be another day that we're trying to touch back into the 90s.